Hey guys, Jeremy here for Union Poker, and today I'm going to teach you a better forking strategy. A fork is what happens in poker when you take one action with one part of your range and a different action with another. So, say you're going to bet some hands and check some other hands. It's important to be aware, what that range, that subsequent range looks like to prevent being exploited by your opponents. So your first fork occurs pre-flop when you're going to raise some hands and fold some other hands. Now, this isn't too problematic because, once you've folded the hands pre-flop, the hand is over and you don't have to worry about it anymore. The only real pitfall is if you're raising so few hands that your opponent knows when you raise that you have a very, very strong hand. Say, some players, if they're too tight, will raise aces, kings, queens, and jacks, but either, call or fold everything else. And this can make you vulnerable because your opponents can just fold when you raise, which, it denies you getting any value with your strong hands, or they can kind of speculate, like call with a small pair to try and set mine, knowing that, if they do make a hand that's very strong, you're going to have a hand strong enough to pay them off. So the pre-flop forking is okay. But when you get to the flop, a lot of newer players will continue by betting their strong hands and checking their weak hands. Now, that may even seem, reasonable to you depending on where you are in your poker journey. But the issue with that is that when your stronger opponents see this, they're going to pick up on it very quickly, and they're going to realize, okay, when my opponent bets, they have a strong hand. I'm going to fold my medium strength hands. I'm not going to try and raise them as a bluff or anything like that. And if I have a strong hand myself, I'm just going to call and allow them to keep putting money in the pot. But when they check, I know that this player doesn't have any strong hands at all, and I'm always going to bet. And so, even if your hands are weak, they have some amount of equity. If you see a free turn card, you can pick up a draw, you can make a pair. But if your opponent realizes that your checking range is super weak, they're always going to be betting at it. You're never going to be able to see that turn card because you only have weak hands in your checking range. And so, across your entire range, you're going to lose a lot of value. So a better way to construct your ranges in that fork on the flop, turn, and river when you're going to be betting some hands and checking other hands is to add some of your weak hands in with your strong hands as bluffs, essentially, when you're betting. Now, that prevents your opponent from just exploitatively folding every time you bet because, if they're doing that, you're going to be capturing the pot with some of your strong hands enough of the time to prevent them from exploiting you that way. The other adjustment is to put some medium strength hands into your checking range with your weak hands. Now, you don't want to overdo this because you want to be betting most of your strong hands for value. You want to be increasing the size of the pot. You want to be denying your opponent's equity. But some of those medium strength hands, maybe a top pair with a weak kicker or a middle pair or something like that, those can be checked along with your weaker hands to defend that checking range and prevent your opponents from just reflexively betting every time you check. And what that's going to do is, it's going to elicit some bluffs out of your opponent, which is going to gain you some equity with your medium strength hands that they might have folded, their bluff type or weaker type hands too if they were included with the betting range. But it also protects the other weaker hands in your checking range. It doesn't allow your opponent to just bet every time you check, and it's going to allow you to see more free cards and realize more of your equity with those weaker hands that are in your checking range. Now, the final consideration on forks is that a lot of times, post-flop especially, you're going to find situations where you want to have multiple bet sizes. You may have, the nuts that you want to bet large. You may have a hand with a nut flush blocker or something like that you want to get your opponent to be folding a lot of like middle pair type hands. You want to bet large. You may also have, some medium strength hands that you want to bet, but if you bet them too big, you're not going to be able to get called by, kind of your opponent's middling kind of bluff catcher, medium strength hands either. So what you can do is, have multiple bet sizes on the same street. But you just have to be aware that that creates another branch to your fork that you're going to need to protect and balance or risk being exploited by your opponents. Thank you guys for listening. If you like what you heard, please give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you go to unionpoker.org, you can sign up for free with your email address. That'll give you exclusive access to our new content before we make it public, as well as the other promotions and things that we run. So until next time, good luck at the tables.